Imagine getting a phone call, and on the other end of the line is somebody from the state, and they're telling you that you're a victim of cybercrime and that you have to be on high alert for identity theft and fraud. Well, this was happening to the taxpayers for South Carolina this time last year. They were getting these calls. They were being told that their personal, their private, their financial information had been stolen by cybercriminals, by hackers. Now, any one of us could have been getting these calls, and the reality is that this event is not remotely limited to South Carolina. In fact, the frequency and success of these cyber attacks are happening in our place, in our world today, frequently. They've happened in our state multiple times. The South Carolina data breach was so massive that hackers stole the financial records of more than 6 million people and hundreds of thousands of businesses. I have a unique understanding of cybercrime because professionally I help businesses protect themselves from cyber threats, which means I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. But I'm really passionate about it, and I really love helping people. And I'm a member of a few groups outside of my profession where we talk about cybercrime and cybersecurity and what that means to us, the public. And that's why I'm here, to talk about how these cyber crimes are costing us way more than we realize. And there are some really good alternative solutions to these problems that we must consider. Let's start with our identities. All of us have digital identities today. Whether we know it, whether we like it, whether we approve of it or not, we have them. They are extremely valuable. They are targeted. And if they are stolen, they will be used for crimes like identity theft and healthcare fraud and financial fraud and so on. Cybercrimes are threatening and compromising our privacy. Our digital lives are stored in computer systems from government agencies to healthcare exchanges and corporate and small business networks. And if, or more likely when, that information is stolen, our private lives have a huge probability of becoming public information. There is an unprecedented amount of intellectual property theft today. Why? There is a global explosion of interconnectivity, fueled by massively fast bandwidth speeds. A criminal, or what we call an actor, from halfway around or the furthest reaches of the globe with a minimal skill set can hack a network and steal my patents, my copyrights, and my most innovative ideas, and there's not a thing US law enforcement can do about it. Cybercrimes are a major contributor to our current financial problems. If we go back and take a look at the South Carolina event, the cost of remediation is hovering around $20 million and climbing. We have to remember those are taxpayer dollars. That's money that could have gone into education like STEM or STEAM. And more so, the current value of cybercrimes like the ones I'm talking about are between hundreds of billions and $1 trillion annually, making this one of the most profitable industries on the planet. Cyber threats have really evolved from cybercrimes like the ones I'm talking about to cyber warfare and cyber terrorism. We're seeing that in the news today. It's a huge national security concern. Los Alamos is working on it, and it has the ability to affect our lives in ways that we have yet to comprehend. These cyber threats are so absolutely insidious, largely because they're invisible. They're incredibly difficult to detect, absolutely. But it's also because of how we prepare and react to them that make them so incredibly dangerous. You see, the current ecosystem is like a cat and mouse game, except we're always on the losing end of it. We wait for attacks to happen. We respond to them if we can. That means if we can actually detect them. And then we recover from them, which will always be an expensive proposition, and there will always be collateral fallout. This method is clearly kicking our asses. Right? It reminds me of an arms race, but I like to call it a digital arms race, where if you have a weapon like a gun, I'm going to take a defensive measure, like getting a bulletproof vest. Your next logical choice is to get a more powerful weapon, like an armor-piercing bullet, and so on. I'm sure you can see the story play out. Well, this is how it works in cyberspace. These are our tactics. Well, we need more resilient yet different ways to manage these cyber threats way before they are at our doorstep. And we must figure out a way to flip this digital arms race paradigm on its head. Simply put, we can no longer afford to continue being reactive. It's too costly. So how do we get this done? Well, the first thing we absolutely have to do is take a hard and honest look at the data that people want to steal. And we're going to find out something immediately. Before this is a cybercrime, it's a crime, and like most crimes, it's financially motivated. The data that people want to steal has value, and it can be easily stolen from halfway across the globe, and it can be easily sold on the digital black market, and you don't even have to get out of your home or wherever it is that these attackers are doing this from. We have to seriously consider what it means to have such amazing amounts of valuable data sitting on systems that are vulnerable to cyber attacks from people all over the planet. And US law enforcement can't do anything. We have to think about removing the value from the data to make the data useless to criminals. If the data no longer has any value, then who's going to want to steal it? Well, it's a really interesting concept, easier said than done. And hopefully people way smarter than me will figure out how to do it, but I have some good ideas on how to get started. Like most things, we have to agree there's a problem, and then once we agree there's a problem, then we can figure out a way to fix it. That's education and awareness. We have to collectively raise our awareness to these cyber threats. And in doing so, we are going to improve our maturity concerning technology. I am of the opinion that the current race to technical achievement is lacking significant oversight when we talk about privacy and security. I like to think about this as parenting. And our absent parenting and our race to technical achievement is proving to be disastrous. In alignment with an awareness adjustment, we must seriously reconsider what we think about privacy. We have strong ideas about privacy in this country, and we have rights to privacy as well. But when you think about the amount of information we freely give away about ourselves each and every day, the amount of information that we sign away by the user agreements and terms that we sign on every system that we log into, every digital device that we touch, every website that we go to, every service that we become a part of, you throw in the mechanics of cyberspace and cybercrime, it becomes quite compelling very fast to realize there is very little privacy today in cyberspace. There should be a clear connection at this point between what we consider valuable and what is private. The truth is we use our extremely private information to validate ourselves as legitimate people in cyberspace. The federal government gives me a social security number, as an example. It's supposed to be highly confidential and sensitive information. Yet everywhere I go, people want my social security number to validate me. I can't prove to you or to myself that these people or these companies, whoever it is, that want that information, know how to protect it, understand the value of it. And clearly they don't because of the amount of data breaches there are, from the largest to the smallest. We have to change our validation methods because when we use our private information to validate us, we're giving the data value, so we're contributing to the problem. If we figure out a way to change our validation methods, that will be a vehicle to devaluing the information. And I'm talking about using technologies like biometrics. Biometrics can uniquely identify us by our physical characteristics, not by numbers that we type into keyboards, like my voice recognition or facial recognition, retina scans or fingerprints and combinations thereof. The main point being we have to distinguish the difference between private and valuable, and our use methods must reflect this. So if the computer system can recognize my voice and not my social security number, we're off to a fantastic start, I think. Clearly, biometrics are not an answer to all of our cyber problems, but they can certainly help to mitigate many of the cyber crimes that we're dealing with today. But they can also help to make people's lives much easier. For example, in healthcare, due to sweeping changes in federal regulations, we are now required to implement extremely strict methods to the access controls of electronic healthcare records. And in doing so, we're asking our doctors and other healthcare professionals to remember frequently changing and complex passwords. Well, it's not working. They're writing them down. I've seen it happen. Too much, too fast to remember. They write it down, they put it in their phone. I'm sure our docs and other healthcare professionals would love an alternative that's faster, easier, more efficient, and for those of us concerned about security, safer. Cybercrimes today are an intangible reality, but they are very real, and they threaten nearly every aspect of our lives. It's clear the current digital arms race method to trying to solve these problems is not working. We must investigate alternatives like devaluing information, challenging our ideas about what we think about privacy, and the use of alternative technologies like biometrics. I want you to walk away with a powerful and compelling feeling that as a group, as a culture, as a society, we can take ownership of our place in this brave new digital world. This is not fear-mongering or the sky is falling or cyber Armageddon, but we really, as a group, collectively, we have to understand our place in the world today, which is based off technology and the internet and all of these complex computer systems. We have the ability to create a very safe digital culture for ourselves and for our future generations. Thank you.